Hello there. It's still Thursday, and I'm still in my garden. I just wanted to talk today about the new road traffic laws that are coming into effect. But firstly, we'll talk about the ones that haven't come into effect yet. That will be pavement parking. I think that's still in discussion. And of course, there's the mobile phone use as well. I think that's changed, which means that if you use your mobile phone while driving, that loophole that you may have used to say you were taking a photograph of an incident is now closed for you. You won't be able to use that. So using a mobile device of any kind while driving will be prohibited and subject to fines and points. But getting back to the new road traffic laws, which give priority to the most vulnerable of road users, of course that'll be the pedestrians. Next comes cyclists, horse riders, motorcyclists, cars, vans and lorries under a certain weight. Then we come up to the large buses, and then we come up to the HGV, heavy goods vehicles. So basically, if you're a pedestrian, you have right of way everywhere. So if you're waiting to cross the road, cars have got to stop. If you're halfway through crossing, cars have got to stop. Now this has always been the case, but they've now highlighted it more, so hopefully the police will now be on your case if you run into a pedestrian as he's crossing the road. The same for cyclists. Now, cyclists are one of these most vulnerable. Their speed is slower. They can't accelerate to get out of trouble, and quite often, car drivers think of cyclists as a second-class citizen because they don't pay road tax. That's right, this imaginary tax that hasn't been in existence since 1937. Bicycles pay the same road tax as electric cars, which is zero. So, you know, who's to fault? If you're not driving an electric car, then you've got to pay VED, which is also known as road tax. But yeah, it's strange how that stigma attaches to something that doesn't exist. Anyway, yeah, so the next vulnerable is a horse. Now, going back to a bicycle for a second, the safe passing distance is now a mandatory 1.5 meters at speeds below 30 miles an hour. Speeds above 30 miles an hour, you have to give a cyclist 2 meters. Now, a lot of motorists don't do that. They won't even know what 2 meters are. After living through this last 2 years where a 2 meter gap is required between people, it's been drummed into us, a lot of motorists won't even know what 2 meters is anymore. They're that dim that they can't work out what 2 meters is. You know, even when you go into the supermarket and it's on the floor in front of you, keep a 2 meter gap between you and a customer in front. Very rarely do people follow those rules. They're literally reaching across you to reach something, or in one case they barge past you because they think you're in the way. Where if they waited a second, you would be out of their way. Anyway, I digress. So horse riding, you have to give them 2 meters and travel past them very slowly at 10 miles an hour, I believe it is, although I'm sure I'll be corrected. Then comes the old car driver. The car driver has to give way to cyclists and pedestrians and horses. Now, one of the biggest things that car drivers do wrong is they overtake to turn left. So they overtake a cyclist just to turn in front of them. So the cyclist has no choice but to collide with the rear end of their car as the car is turning left. Now, that's textbook stuff that you shouldn't do it. And the same as at junctions. A cyclist has right of way at a junction now. You have to give way, you have to let the cyclist go. If you collide with a cyclist, you're at fault. Same as if you collide with a horse or a pedestrian, the car driver's at fault. Now the same rules apply for buses and taxis and other lorries. Anything that's bigger than a car has to give way to a car. In the same way, you wouldn't overtake a car just to turn left, would you? Yeah, you would. If you're in your car, you're on the motorway, you see your exit up ahead. Do you slow down and fall in behind the car that's in the left-hand lane? Or do you just swerve across the left-hand lane, hoping that the car behind is going to slow down and let you through to the exit? Now you're going to do that, aren't you? Just what you're going to do is you're going to speed up, pull in front of the car on the left, and then just make your exit without skidding or tipping the car over as you're swerving about. And then comes lorries, big old lorries. They have to give way to everything. That's right, give way to everything. But one of the better things that I feel is the fact that cycle lanes now, most of them are becoming mandatory, and the highway code does stipulate that you mustn't use a cycle lane if you can avoid doing so. This is one's marked with a dotted white line. A cycle lane marked with a solid white line means it's a mandatory cycle lane and it is not to be used by motor vehicles. And when I say motor vehicles, I mean motorbikes and cars. They're normally the ones that use it. I've even put videos up of motorcyclists in a mandatory cycle lane, which is wrong. Which punishable. Again, I think that's by 3 points and £100 fine. But I have to clarify that. And the bike box. You're not allowed. Motorists aren't allowed to stop in a bike box unless, of course, the lights change suddenly and you have no way of stopping in time to stop before the bike box. But if you roll into a bike box, that's it. It's a 3 point on your licence and £100 fine. A lot of people do that deliberately. They want to get ahead. They want to stop a cyclist from getting in front. But the way the bike box works is that if you've accidentally stopped inside the bike box and there's a cyclist in the bike box, you have to let the cyclist clear and get away before you move on. You can't just rev up and stream past, because that's not the purpose of the bike box. The bike box is there to give the cyclist that little bit of extra time to get going. You know how wobbly it is when you first start off. That first revolution of the pedals can be a bit wobbly. So that was the reason why we had the bike boxes in the first place. But anyway, the rules are out there, freely available on the internet. If you go to the Highway Code website, everything is there. And to be quite honest, if you haven't read the Highway Code after passing your test, then you should be taken out and shot. Not actually shot, but you know what I mean. There's no excuse for not reading the Highway Code now. Anyway, that's me. I've rambled on about road safety, and just take your foot off the accelerator a bit more. Leave a bigger gap between you and the car in front, in case a pedestrian steps out into the road and the car in front has to do an emergency stop. Well, if you don't keep your safe driving distance between you and the car in front, you're going to end up in his boot. So just take your foot off the accelerator for a second, increase that gap, and then carry on. It's not rocket science. Anyway, that's the washing machine starting to dump water, so that's my cue to finish. Right, have a nice Thursday, Friday tomorrow. We'll see what happens with the job interview. Anyway, see you later, bye.